welcome to Village in Motion. I am Clint Lambert, and this is Friday, the 13th of March. Wow. But it's a good time to be talking about wine and having a conversation about wine. And I have two of our wine experts with me this morning. And the very first one is Jason, who is our Director of Dining Services. And I also have Jim, who is our wine connoisseur. And we're glad to have both of them with us this morning. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have all these nice wines in front of us.
Yes.
Why do we have these wines here this morning, Jason?
Well, I was really thirsty. No. So we actually, down in Woodland Skies, and I know we had talked about this last year, so we actually go out and look for deals that we can purchase through our wine vendors and be able to pass that savings on to our residents. And so these are just some of the wines that we are doing kind of down in Woodland. Wednesday, we've done one earlier this week. We have one scheduled for next Wednesday, the 18th, where we'll have kind of display bottles out. You can let us know what you want or how many you'd like to purchase. We have all the pricing there, but it really ranges from $8. I think the most expensive one we have is $12. Okay. And we have a different selection for different wines. So we got some Italian wines, reds and whites, Foodies, which is it's actually a company that doesn't make their own wine. They actually purchase the wine from smaller wineries, and what they end up doing is they just find wines that they feel pair really well with food and different types of food. Wonderful. And so in the back of every bottle it kind of has a brief description of what it pairs well with. They recommend, now obviously you can drink it by yourself, but they've kind of really designed their platform on pairing with certain meals, and they do a really good job of it. I do recommend, so if you are someone who likes wine but is always kind of concerned on what goes well with what, this is a nice help, a nice direction. We have some nice Rieslings. We looked for, so we're allowed to accept wines from outside of the country. Okay. We don't have to let it sit on the shelf for a couple weeks. We're allowed to serve it directly. And so
we're not stopping the importing of wine. Is that what you're saying?
I think wine's okay. Wine's okay. As long as it comes by itself without people. Yeah.
All right. But it's really nice with Foodies. I mean, that is a very nice description on the back and talking about the pairings and everything.
Yeah. So we've looked at different wines and how they work well. With Chef Giovanni, we've actually gone out and purchased probably a little bit more Italian than we normally would, just because one, it gives him a little bit creativity of trying to pair that, and then in April you'll see some information coming out. As of right now, we're planning on doing kind of a we still do evening with the chefs, but I have one chef who wanted to be by himself, so we're going to do an evening with Giovanni where he's actually going to be writing a menu and pairing every course with wine. A lot of those dishes are Italian, so we got some nice Italian wines in to pair with those.
Do you have a date for that?
Right now, I want to say it's like mid to late April. Okay. There'll be some advertising going out about that. So that's the plan as of today. Obviously, with where we're at kind of in the country, that could be changing. But we want to kind of keep business as much as normal as possible. Okay.
All these wines, as you mentioned, are going to be on sale.
Yep.
Is there anything special about any particular one?
I think overall we just looked for good wines. We didn't look for any wines that were, some wines, and Jim, you've probably had a bunch that are a little funky, so you kind of need to really kind of be into it. It's a little bit different. We kind of looked for more, let me put like pop music, more popular, more easily to go. So when we look at our wines, we are really looking for wine that if you're, more of a wine expert or someone who really enjoys wine, that you'll like it. It'll be really good. But if you're someone who's not necessarily too into it, or if you want to kind of get into it, I think I consider a lot of the wines that we buy to be that kind of introductory level of wanting to try diet that go really well. And we look for the gamut. We're always looking for different types of wines. You know, a lot of our residents, you know, prior to moving in here had never had Prosecco. Now they had had champagne before at weddings and things of that nature, but you know, Prosecco is a lot more approachable. I think it's more cost effective than a true champagne, and you know, we've seen that with our mimosa sales and things like that, and then very simple to do at home too. So.
Well, I noticed that you have on here one sparkling. And that's your $12 bottle, but it's Crane Lake, and they do a lot of economical wines.
Yes.
In regards to it. That's the sparkling that you've got for us.
Yep.
And I noticed that you also have several Chardonnays, a couple Merlots, Pinot Grigios, Pinot Noirs.
Yeah.
So Sauvignon Blancs. So nice setting.
Yeah.
Nice choices.
We have a good supply and selection there. It's funny, we've actually been looking at our wine sales and consumption on campus, and even in our winter months, now maybe because it was a little bit less of a colder winter than we've had historically, but our white sales are actually much higher than we usually anticipate, which is good. So we added and brought more whites in for this time of year, where we would normally go heavier on reds, but we're seeing trending-wise more people going for the whites and sparklings.
Jimmy?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I noticed as Jason was talking is he mentioned funky wines. And one of the problems that I like to talk about with wine tasting groups that I'm in, and when I do tastings, is talk about wines that are corked, because mildew or mold gets in the cork.
And that doesn't mean that it's just simply got a cork in it.
Right.
It's bad.
And they had, for years, they had a lot of problems with wines that had that taint in the cork. Now, all these wines that he's got out here all have screw tops, which means they're not subject to any kind of contamination from a cork.
So they should last longer.
And I doubt if they'll last longer, because most wines that they're putting screw tops on aren't made for long aging, although some of the experiments they've done show that the wines hold up just as well with a screw top.
Interesting.
Yep.
But the interesting thing about these is that if you're going to be drinking them at home, or if you're taking them to the dining room, you don't have to wait for the waiter to go get somebody who's over 21 to look for the corkscrew in the drawer of a desk someplace in the back. You can unscrew the top yourself, or at least probably find somebody at your table or the next table who can unscrew it for you. And then all you have to do is ask for wine glasses, or you can ask for those when you go in, and they'll be ready for you on the table.
Yep.
The other thing you mentioned that I'm excited about is Chef Giovanni, his dinner with the chef. He's an excellent chef, and I know I've talked to him a couple of times about food and wine, and he's got some great ideas on food and wine pairing. So I would urge anybody out there who's interested in food and wine or Italian food to keep an eye out for the announcement of the date on that Chef Giovanni dinner, because it's going to be good, and I want to be sure I get my wife and I in there before their tickets are all sold out.
You and I both.
So that's good.
But it's nice though to have this option. And for dining services to bring us the wines to purchase here and select wines that are not only sold here, but served here as well in regards to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the things too that I always tell people is, and especially this. So we're setting up kind of like a display table and doing that. But any of these wines, and they'll have this kind of like wine list and prayer. We can't necessarily have everything set up all the time, but these are always available for sale. So if you go in tonight and you're like, I want to try the Foodie Sauvignon Blanc, you can purchase a bottle either to take home with you, or you can purchase a bottle to have in the restaurant itself.
Have you considered putting that wine list up at the bars or in the dining rooms for people to see?
Yeah, so right now, just based off of consumption, that's why we've kind of concentrated to Woodland Skies. We actually see Woodland Skies has probably the largest amount of residents who purchase wine from us. So with that, we've kind of built more of the wine program here since we saw the demand for it. Fireside is very low, and now people bring their own in, which is fine. The same with Jefferson. Bistro obviously has a good amount, and that rotates there, but that's not necessarily a solely wine crowd. It with all spirits and beers. that we look at there. But from a solely wine standpoint, we do see a good amount here at Woodland. So that's kind of been our focus point. But yeah, I think it's really good, and I definitely recommend trying it, especially too if, and I do this with my wife, if we go out and we both want a glass of wine, definitely I buy the bottle.
Right.
We can cork it, or in this case, put the screw cap back on, and you can take whatever is left over home with you.
Yeah. But Jim,
you can do that here at Green Spring without any problems or questions,
right,
because you're buying the wine here at Green Spring, and you're not taking it in your car on the road.
Yep.
Just screw it up and take home whatever's left and have it again.
Jim, I remember many years ago you making the comment about the fact it's cheaper to buy a bottle of wine than it is to buy the glass when you're looking at drinking the entire bottle of wine. I mean, or drinking that much. And we save probably $4 compared to buying by the glass for the table.
Yeah, on average, yeah.
Another thing I'm interested about this is are you going to expand your selection of wines once the repositioning in Town Center is done, and you're got your cork and fork and your restaurants are redone there? Are you going to expand this? Because I'm looking forward to sitting outside on the patio drinking a glass of or bottle of white wine when the weather is nice, spring or fall.
Yeah. Yes. So what we're kind of looking at overall, just because let's be honest, it's in the title. Cork and Fork will have probably a little bit more of an intricate wine program than our other restaurants. Our other restaurants are kind of more of you go to the bar, things of that nature. For Cork and Fork, we're looking at how do we design that, because part of the fireside renovations, when that dining room is being redone, it is adding more of a permanent sit-down bar aspect. So we're looking at things for there as well. But ultimately, we're looking at, as long as the demand is and desire is there, I would like to see us be able to get to the place where we're sampling more. And like you said, I think nothing would be nicer than to sit on a patio on a nice spring day, early fall. But also too, we're going to have a fire pit out there, and that's also a wonderful thing as well. To be able to sit out, have a nice glass of wine by a fire. So we see a lot of attractiveness to that. So ultimately, we're looking for that resident feedback, but we're going to probably be trying more and different things with our wine program as we grow. Some things are going to work and they'll stay around. Some things aren't, and they'll go away.
But if restaurants don't make comments, then you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, Jim.
On the menus at the Cork and Fork and Fireside. Are you going to have, when you print the menu, are you going to have a recommended wine selection to go with the items on the menu? Or I would expect that more specifically at the Cork and Fork because of
to do a pairing type situation.
And I was thinking maybe in going forward in any or all of the restaurants, you could have like a daily special, maybe like a like a theater menu or something where you have an appetizer, entree, so forth, with a glass of a particular wine.
As a special of the day?
As a special of the day, or the weekly special would be, scallops with a Sauvignon Blanc with a salad of some, just something to, to help gin up interest in the wine program among the diners, because maybe if you throw in a glass of wine with the menu, why people that don't want, maybe even haven't tried it, they would say, well, maybe I'll try a glass of that with this.
Yeah, I think it goes, that's a good idea. And I've done that in a lot of restaurants that I've run in the past where, whether that be a burger and a beer special or, like you said, here's 3 courses, here's, 2 half glasses of wine, one to go with the, let's say your first course and one to go with your entree. All of that we can definitely do. It's more based on the resident demand that we hear. That's one of the things that I think when we make decisions in the program, we're always looking for ways to add enhancements, change typically doesn't go over well. So we typically try to add, so that would be something where we'd probably come up with that special and then add on if you want to add a glass of wine, because there's a lot of people who, if they don't want that wine, or I want a glass of wine but I only drink this Merlot and not that, it kind of goes back and forth, and we're ultimately looking at that. I think one of the things too to help the program grow while we're looking at these new venues and different things that we're going to be offering, you know, some are going to be done by students, but we're also looking at hiring more of age servers, which gives us more flexibility from an alcohol program standpoint.
Okay. With these, the wines that are on sale, they're for sale here and for consumption here. What else do we have? Do we not have a regular stock of wine as well?
We do. So our wine list that we have in the restaurants, it's one of those things, it's almost like one of those hidden gems where if you know, you ask and you get it, but it's not one of those things that we see all the time. And we kind of do that on purpose, to be honest. When we originally got the menus printed, we got a lot of negative feedback when we would try to hand it to people because they said,
pushing wine. Yeah.
Well, it's not even pushing wine. It's I just came to enjoy my meal that I've already paid for as part of my monthly fee. I don't want to try to be upsold. So we're always sensitive to that. We always want to add things, but we're always trying to be sensitive to the individuals who are very happy with what they have today and don't want to really add anything to it.
Okay. With the wines that we have, and with now having a pairing dinner in regards to it, are you looking to maybe increase the number of dinners that we have in the future with the different chefs?
So yeah, those are things that we're looking for. I think part of our growth and development too is kind of like when we did Culinarians Day last year, and we're planning to do for the future once a year, seeing the talent from our line level cooks and our sous chefs and being kind of supervised by our executive chefs is kind of, I think, the evolution that we're looking for here. As we grow and grow restaurants and grow and develop our staff, I think taking, and instead of it being, let's say, Chef Mark wine dinner, I much rather see it as sous chef Williams wine dinner that he writes and pairs, and Mark would be kind of that teacher and advisor. The same with all of our chefs and our sous chefs, and then incorporate some of our line staff, because it's great to come into work every day and do a great job, but there are those individuals who are always kind of looking to grow and develop themselves. So the more opportunities that we present to them, the more exciting it is, the more fulfilled they feel, and also too, you get a lot of that passion in the menus and passion in the food, and that's what we're always looking for.
And it's a great opportunity for the residents to show their support for the staff by signing up for the dinners, or by telling them in the dining room the next time you see them going around that you appreciated the dinner that they did, and that sort of helps management keep the good, talented young people, at least, if not at Green Spring, at least within the Erickson family, because there's always jobs opening up at new campuses or at old campuses where somebody gets promoted or leaves. And if they've been able to show their chops in the dining room, then that gives them a leg up on filling out their resume to apply for jobs and get recommendations. So I think the more opportunities we give to the staff, not only in dining services but in other departments, to show that they have what it takes to advance, I think it's good for all of us as residents, and we should encourage that in management and among ourselves.
One of the things I noticed at Woodland Skies, they just got new water glasses. Are they also going to get new wine glasses as well?
We'll look into it. So one of the things, as we grow and change our program, we're always looking from a I'm trying to think the best way to put it. So there's aesthetic, but there's also what I think my grandmother called it, bang for your buck.
Yes.
And so one of the things that we found with our older version wine glass in there, is the longevity on it was not to the level that we wanted. So we've kind of moved. We're checking out how this new glass does, and if it does as well as we hope for, and based on some of the research we did, eventually you'll see us changing the water glasses throughout the community. We don't just change and throw away. We try to utilize throughout. So we're looking at those changes. Wine glass, I'll be honest, I like a stemless wine glass just because that's typically how they break. You know, my wife always jokes, I have these beautiful hand-blown wine glasses. Ever since I got kids and a dog, they sit in a shelf and I never use them. But Lazy Boy gave us some free ones that I've had my golden retriever literally knock across a room. It's still intact. They're fantastic.
Those unbreakable wine glasses they're more expensive, but if they last twice as long, why? And I didn't even know your nickname was Lazy Boy. So
and some of the wineries, when you go, will give you those glasses. My wife and I still have a glass that we got from Lambert's winery in West Virginia the last time we were there.
So we're looking at that. I know a lot of our residents really like that kind of classic style. From an overall standpoint, we're mostly looking for a universal wine glass we can use for a different wine. So I wouldn't say that's something that we wouldn't do, but it's right now we're probably looking at what we got. If I hear a high demand for something different, then we'll take a look at that.
From an inventory management standpoint, which was a lot of my jobs in the government, having multi-purpose glasses and dishes and so forth is a big thing between breakage and washing machines breaking down and so forth. The more things you've got that can do double or triple duty for staff as well as you know, hard items is good.
Yeah, speaking of that, so everybody knows, you cannot use wine as a hand cleaner, right? It does not kill.
It does not have enough alcohol in it to kill coronavirus. The other thing is, and you know, I joke about this. You know, mostly we've been talking about wine today, but Tito's Vodka actually had to put out a statement saying that their vodka cannot be used as a hand sanitizer. And so, with that being said, and I know it comes across as a sales plug. It is not the worst idea to buy a couple bottles in case you do need to stay home for X amount of time, stockpile. You know, those are things to look at. But wine is good to drink, but that's about it.
It does not make a good hand cleaner.
No.
But it makes a great palate cleanser.
There you go.
But those are things to think about, though, in regards to it. And as you said, you know, staying home, you know, rather than worrying about things, go ahead and get some. But what we have that a lot of people do not have, we have in-house wine.
We have in-house wine.
And so we don't have to go out.
Can we get that delivered with our meals to the apartment?
We'll.
But you'd have to have somebody 21.
That's kind of So my instinct is of a very quickly yes, you know. But the problem with that logistically is a lot of our deliveries are made
by
from
teenagers.
So you might order it. I don't know if it would get there though.
Well, that's okay. I'm sure I'll get charged for it.
But but those are things to look at. And what can be done.
We look at that, but
hope it doesn't come to that.
And I think since we're having a show, with everything going on, just so everyone is aware, from the store standpoint, we try to purchase and stock our stores as much as we can, but we are not magical, so there are certain items that we run out of. Trust me, we are desperately trying to order them, but we can't control necessarily what comes in or out. So don't assume just because the store normally has it, some items are becoming a challenge for us to get in stock, and then some items when they come in stock become out of stock very quickly.
So have you thought, or are you thinking about increasing your stock in the stores for certain items like frozen pizza or frozen foods?
So
you'll have it on hand?
We have. So we looked at overall non-perishables and items that we can. So we've looked at increasing our average par level
Canned
there.
goods and so forth.
Yep.
Okay.
So all of that has been for actually a couple weeks now. We've been doing that,
Great.
and that's the same thing too for our restaurants. We have we normally keep like a 3-day supply on hand. We've increased that to a 6-day supply, just being precautious.
Okay. Any other suggestions or comments about the wines that we have in front of us?
No, they're delicious. I recommend them and enjoy.
Okay. And drink sensibly?
Drink sensibly always.
Okay. And
Well, I'm going to, reinforce or not repeat, but just enforce with my agreement everything he said, except drink responsibly. I can't get behind that, but the rest of it, everything about the wine program here has gotten better over the last several years, and I'm looking forward to the opening of the new restaurants, and so we're to see where the wine program goes from there. It's very exciting as a resident, one who is still able to go outside and shop for wine at the local stores, where I know a lot of residents here either don't drive or depend on the shopping shuttle to get out and can't carry a case of wine back with them. Having the convenience of being able to get their food in the stores, get their wine here, eat their meals here, is a huge selling point for places like Green Spring, and I think it's good to see that the wine program is part of that.
But Jim, we have 1 minute left. And before we go off the air, before we came on camera, you talked about the fact there's 3 local places off campus that sell reasonable price wines.
There are Lidl and Aldi's are the new German places in town. I like Total Wine, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods. Giant has a good wine department. I think we're still running shopping shuttles down to Wegmans. They have excellent selection of wines down there, and a lot of wines in all these places are available at reasonable prices, from $4 on up to as much as you want to spend for a South African Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay, very good. Well, thank both of you. Greatly appreciate it. Jason, thank you for bringing wines to show us.
Yep.
Good luck on the sale.
Thank you.
We greatly appreciate you doing that, going out and purchasing the wines and bringing them to us. And you're selling them for a reasonable price.
Yeah.
Very reasonable price.
In regards to it. So, Jim, as always, thank you for your comments and your thoughts in regards
As
to
always,
this.
I'm happy to come here and talk.
Okay, very good. Well, folks, this has been hopefully an interesting show to you, and we're just glad that we have been able to provide it for you.